Hello everyone, this is Miss Link. I just wanted to show you a few tips on how to use the Stellarium Web Planetarium website. It's really fun, and honestly one of the best ways to learn how to use it is to just kind of play around. But I wanted to show you a few tips just to kind of get you started. First things first, let's get rid of this big menu over here. It's kind of ugly and takes up space. If I click on the hamburger, that's going to get rid of that. And I can also go to full screen. So if I go to this menu down at the bottom with all these different icons, if I click on this square here, full screen, then I get a nice big page to look at. All right, so let's play around a little bit. To move around, you're gonna click and drag to kind of look in different directions. All right, so I'm clicking, I'm holding down, and I'm dragging to turn and look in all different directions here. All right, I can also zoom in and out. So I have a mouse, I'm using the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. If you don't have a mouse, you can use the trackpad and just kind of like do that pinching motion. If I pinch in, I'm gonna go away. If I drag my fingers away from each other, I'm gonna zoom in. Again, something to kind of just play with to get comfortable with. All right. So that's how we move around to look around. One of the most important things for this project, because you're going to come up with your own constellation, but it's really important that your constellation can be seen from Montgomery. Something you have, I'm sure, talked about in science class is that depending on location and depending on time of year and the time of night, you're going to see different stars in the sky. People in the southern hemisphere are going to see totally different stars and totally different constellations than what we see here in North Jersey. So we want to make sure everyone's going to be able to see our constellation. So we need to pick Montgomery as our location. If you look down here at the bottom, there's this little box. This is the location box, this gray box here. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to search for Montgomery, New Jersey. We're just telling the computer this is where we want to pretend we are as we look up at our imaginary night sky. So Montgomery, New Jersey, I'm going to click that and say use this location. So that way we know everyone is looking up at the same imaginary night sky from Montgomery. All right. So make sure you do that before you do anything else. And then if I go over here to the right side of the bottom of the screen, we can adjust the date and the time. Now, I believe you're allowed to pick any time of year. So if you want to have a summertime constellation, you could change it to a different date. But I'm going to just keep it, today's November 2nd, so I'm just going to keep that as is. And this is our time. So based on the rotation of the Earth, depending on the time of night, there's going to be different stars as the stars kind of, different stars show up in the night sky as the Earth turns. All right, so we want to make sure, obviously, it's got to be nighttime because we have to be able to see that constellation. If I went all the way to, say, 8:30 in the morning, it's daytime. So obviously that's not going to work for us. So we want to make sure that we pick one that we can see during the nighttime. Our menu down at the bottom gives us the option to kind of turn certain things on and off. You can turn off the landscape so that you wouldn't see that ground here. I'm going to recommend you do not do that. And the reason is, again, we want to find a constellation that we can actually see. So if we turn that off, we might not know for sure. We might pick something down here and say, oh, this looks like a cool constellation. This is our constellation. But then when I turn the landscape back on, we would not be able to see this constellation because it's behind the Earth or through the Earth. So we want to make sure that we keep that landscape on so that we're only looking up at a night sky that we would actually be able to see in real life. All right, a few other little tools and features I want to show you down in this menu. We can turn on the lines for all the different constellations. So this is going to be helpful as you research a real constellation that already exists. So let's say Orion, you're researching Orion. I can search for my constellation. This is really, really helpful so that we don't have to look all around up in the sky to try and find it. Make sure you're spelling it correctly, but then I click and it brings me right to my constellation. All right, so here's all the different stars that make up Orion. There's some information here. I'm going to X out of that. I can click on different stars to learn more about them. So I can click on it. I can see how far from Earth, how many light years from Earth this star is. So just some good information that we're going to need for our project. So click on the different stars. I can zoom in. I can also add that constellation art. So we saw it when we first clicked on him. It's a little faint, but you can see the shape of Orion the Hunter in the background there. However, when you are looking to make up your own constellation, I am going to recommend that you turn all of this off. So we want to turn off constellations and we want to turn off constellation art because we want your own shape that you find. All right. And it's kind of hard to do that when you see those other shapes that other people have already found. So then you would just look up at the sky with your group mates and try and find a shape that you think, oh, this would be a cool constellation to come up with a myth for. Let's say I find something. Let's say this shape, I'm going to say, kind of looks like a pineapple. Let's do a pineapple constellation. So you want to show your group mates. One thing that they can do that's going to be really, really easy rather than trying to hunt for it in the night sky and say something like, oh, look for Mars, and then look over in the upper right, look up and to the right of Mars. You can use that search feature again. So let's say I want this shape here to be our constellation and I want to show my group mates. If I click on one of the stars, I can use that search feature. So I could say, okay, look for 57 Piscium, let's say. And its spelling is going to be important here, okay? So you might need to help each other out. And then I can search for that certain star. Well, that one doesn't seem to be working, but let's say this one here, Algenib. So let's say I search for it. All right, so then I click on that and it's going to bring me to that part of the night sky. So it's going to make it really, really easy for you and your group mates to kind of be looking in the same place at the same time and have a conversation about what it is that you're seeing. All right, so those are my tips for you. Again, play around, click, drag, look at the different menu items, try searching for certain things just to get comfortable with it. The big takeaways, though, the really important things to keep in mind, make sure you know that you're in Montgomery in our location bar at the bottom left, and make sure you know your date and your time in the bottom right. All right, have fun. And I can't wait to see what myths and what constellations you all come up with. Bye.